Erie. It's Monday, August 4th. Welcome back to another Flagship City Sports Talk brought to you by Quickfill. It's a Monday. I had to take a swallow break in the middle of my opening. This is going to be a good one. Always fun when you start off that strong. Good thing I'm not alone because this show would be a train wreck in the studio this morning. Hanging out with Mr. Clean, Paul Adamczak. Paul, how's it going, man?
Not bad, man. 1 week without an intern and we're falling apart.
I'm telling you, Hallie, I missed you so much. I'm like logging in this morning and I'm like, oh, well, I'll just pull up Hallie got the stream. Oh, no, I got to build the stream room. Oh, man, the socials aren't ready. Sent the templates over to Isaac this morning. Speaking of, Isaac Petcash, the IP, joining us virtually. I mentioned your name. I'll go ahead and bring you in. IP, how are you?
I'm great. It's amazing you wait to compliment Hallie until after she leaves.
Well, it's one of those you don't realize.
It's called building character.
What you miss until it's gone. That's something like that. So yeah, no, we're severely missing Hallie here this morning, but that's okay because we have the great and powerful Rich Smith with us. Rich, how's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Good, hanging in there. Still putting on the miles in the new van.
Yeah. My kids come home this week, though, so, that'll be the end of that. I was mentioning, next year, I'm going to say, where did all this money come from? Because I'm not blowing $200 a week on gas, Your
kids graduate high school, it's like getting a raise.
Yeah, really.
Oh, man. We all need a raise. So,
amen, brother.
We got a lot of stuff we want to get into. Great show today. Football, and more football. Couldn't ask for a better show. And the reason we're going to talk football
a little bit.
And because, if we really wanted to talk baseball, well, here's your today's headlines. Pirates make more bad trades. Guardians maybe should have made less trades and they'd have more players on their roster, if you know what I mean. Gambling.
Fewer trades, fewer bets. That's right.
Yeah. So that takes up the baseball talk. So that's good because, like I said, we have some football we want to get into. And let's start with some high school, and we will get right into the North Shore Rewind. All right, Paul. You said this morning. This is one of your favorite times of year. It's the first time we have padded practices ready to go. So let's start here. We have a lot of
just
players.
Like I said last week, it's heat acclimatization week starting today, and it was 59 degrees when I woke up this morning. It never fails.
I just can't believe you can roll that word off your tongue so quickly. Acclimatization.
10 years of it, yep.
All right, that's fun. But no, so the pads are on. We're ready. Football
helmets and shoulder pads are on. We're not doing pants this week.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. This is where it's mandatory. Coaches can say, okay, we can start sitting you if you're not at these practices.
Yeah.
Also, the PIAA has a required number of hours that players have to spend during this acclimatization period in order to be eligible to participate in the full padded practices next week. So if you're listening to us now and you have football practice later today, make sure you go to that so you can practice and have all the fun next week.
Yeah. See, I like it. It just means that football is back.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things that got us excited when we were putting the show together this morning was Tom Reisenweber wrote a great article about looking at that quarterback preview. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have gone away to graduation. Our favorite duo, when you're looking at Jacob and Isaac Zeitz over at GM, both have graduated, moving on to Clarion. So we thought that would be a cool way to kind of look at, okay, who are the new up-and-comers, based off of what we've seen, people were excited about. When you look at some of the quarterbacks to watch, these are some of the QBs that Tom had mentioned. You have Aaron Peg, I'm going to butcher these names as always, Aaron Peggs, who's got offers from Akron, Sharon's Ethan Engelmore, Cole Bennett, Paul Johnson. Who is that quarterback that is most likely to break out and grab those early Player of the Year votes this fall?
Oh man, a lot of big names. I don't think there's a bigger name in high school football in our area this year. It's going to be Paul Johnson, formerly of Mercyhurst Prep, had a stellar season there. He was a 2023 Player of the Year at Mercyhurst Prep as a sophomore. Transferred to Erie last year, played a little bit of QB, had an injury where he was on the field, he was off the field. He wasn't really the full-time starter.
Yeah.
And then as Isaac mentioned, because of the transfer rules, he's not allowed to participate in the playoffs. Well, he's back, baby. healthy, feeling good, senior year eligible all the way through. He's a dual threat. He's got a rocket for an arm. Obviously, at the high school level, anticipation and accuracy are things that he's going to have to develop, but all the tools are there. And then should everything break down, he's an excellent runner. So I'm very, very much looking forward to watching Paul Johnson and the Erie Royals.
Isaac, do you think that dual threat guys like Paul Johnson give their teams a bigger edge in the red zone, or just even schematically?
I for sure, especially given the area that you play in, right? I mean, District 10 has started to come around to the spread, but it's not fully there yet. And you still see, obviously, a lot of teams are run heavy first. And I think what we saw Paul Johnson bring at Mercyhurst Prep in the year that he was quarterback there was a lot of versatility with his reads. I think he's a guy who can really read the field well. And if you can read the field in high school football and know when to get outside the hash marks, it's going to be really difficult for people to be able to guard you. Keep in mind, remember, last year, this Erie team wasn't that far off from knocking off McDowell in the 6A championship. And now with the Trojans having to replace their top wideout, their quarterback, their top running back, if Paul Johnson plays, I even say 85-90% of what he played at Mercyhurst Prep, I think this Erie team has a really legitimate chance to compete and contend for the 6A title this year.
I like it. Paul Johnson, when you guys mentioned him this morning, I was like, didn't he graduate? And no, by all means, he's still there. So, so there's a couple guys to look forward to as we get into D10. We'll be covering a lot more high school football as the year rolls on, just thinking about, who are those replacing. We were looking at the wide receivers. 13 of the 20 top receivers from last year have all graduated. So it's going to be a pretty crazy year over for D10 football. All right, Pauly, you ready for a 2-minute drill?
Let's do it. We have some baseball in the 2-minute drill, so yeah.
Oh, baseball.
I know.
Look at you pulling out the baseball news.
Well, somebody has to talk about it.
All right, let's go.
All right, we're talking about the Seawolves slashing through Akron. Erie snapped a skid in the opener of their road series when the Bats erupted for 14 hits. Tigers' top prospect Max Clark ignited the game with a leadoff triple, and Justice Bigby and Josue Briseño piled on runs as the Seawolves cruised to an 11-5 win on Thursday. On Friday, right-hander Garrett Burren tossed 7 scoreless innings, and Briseño bashed 2 homers with 4 RBIs. Jake Holton tripled in 3 more runs as Erie thumped Akron 10-3 to claim their 60th win of the year. Then on Saturday, the game went to extras. Rookie Kevin McGonigal homered to tie it in the 4th, and after Akron's Travis Bazana stunned fans with a 3-run blast in the 9th, Holton's grounder plated McGonigal in the 10th, and Ryan Boyer slammed the door for a 6-5 win. Akron took the finale 4-1 behind 2-run homer from Jorge Burgos on Sunday. Erie's Austin Bergner still made history, notching his 279th career strikeout to set a new franchise record. The Western PA Team Bass Series, that's right, drew 92 teams to Presque Isle State Park over the weekend. Jeff Schaefer and Frank Malik hauled in a 36.16-pounder over 2 days to win the Kings of Bass tournament. Destin DeMarion and Tyler Woke were runners up at 34.83 pounds, and Matthew Lazar and Dylan Drew took third at 32.76 pounds. At McDowell High School's State American Legion tournament, Stars and Stripes blanked Bristol 12-0 in the semifinals, but Bushy Run edged them 1-0 in the final to claim the 2025 Pennsylvania American Legion title. And finally, the Great Lakes Junior Golf Tour Championship at The Ridge produced several local champions. Sean Karg of Knox captured the overall boys title at -7, edging Newcastle's Rocco Bouty and Erie's Cooper Wierchowski. Cassidy Kahn of Waterford won the girls' 19 and under division at 7 over, and Lucas Miller of Titusville took the boys' 15 and under crown at +4.
Isaac, we got a chance to talk to Rogelio Castillo from Tigers ML Report, and he did a great job. If you missed that show, go back and check the podcast from last Wednesday, but he did a great job looking at the trade deadline, and I think he hit the nail on the head. The Tigers were able to get the guys they wanted, in that Seawolves roster that's doing so well. We don't have to worry about that big of a shakeup. What was your takeaway post-trade deadline?
The fact that Jim Jarvis is really the biggest name they lost, I think, on that roster is huge for Erie. I mean, you keep a guy like Max Anderson, who I think a lot of people expected would be traded. I think part of the issue, as Rogelio really outlined last week, is that the price was so high for these closers.
Yeah.
And the Tigers were able to get kind of what I consider a mid-tier closer. They don't get Bednar, but they have a couple of guys now in the bullpen that can help. I think the thought process has to be, if you're Scott Harris in Detroit, is you can't do the Houston or the Baltimore plan where you get rid of everybody at once.
Yep.
Keep them, let them develop.
Yeah, or you could just be like Pittsburgh and just get rid of everybody for nothing.
That too. you have to lose games with that game.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, we got to take a break. When we get back, we're done talking baseball. Talking football. Stopping over to Latrobe, I don't know, to talk Pittsburgh Steelers. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill.
1980.
Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. Getting ready to talk some Steelers camp. Courtesy of Todd Rebich from Rebich Investments, I was able to go to training camp on Thursday. And, fellas, if you ever get the chance to go VIP to training camp, the buffet is worth it alone, my friends. I know, fat guy in the room, I get it. But I'm telling you, the food was great. The football was even better. Had a great time down there on Thursday, and got to see a fight break out, which is always fun.
At the buffet line,
training.
or
well, yeah, that was me. But no, no, on the field, some newcomers. It was pretty cool. The new look offense just looks insane, right? I mean, we talk about Aaron Rodgers a lot, but we're talking Jonnu Smith. We're going to talk new receivers. It was really apparent to me that the team just felt different. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how else to explain that other than it was jovial. The faces were obviously new, but the training camp seemed different. They were trying new things as well. For instance, I talk about the fight on the field, and the one thing that stood out to me most on Thursday was Jonnu Smith is going to be a problem. But my buddy that I went with, he goes, he's going to be the Steelers' Joker player. He's going to be absolutely everywhere. He's going to be in the slot. He's going to be at tight end. They're handing him the ball like a running back. I mean, that's a big running back, right? So, he's going to be used everywhere. The fight that broke out with Jonnu Smith and Juan Thornhill, Jonnu's coming across the middle. Thornhill grabs him around the waist, rips his jersey. Jonnu still makes the catch, runs it in for a touchdown, turns around and chucks it at Thornhill. So Thornhill, then of course there's a scuffle, breaks out, and then I sent you guys the photo of all people to break up the fight. Jalen Ramsey is breaking up a fight. So that was weird to see, and then they run it back, and Thornhill got the better. It would have been a holding call, but he made the pass defense. But so Jonnu Smith is point number one. Mm-hmm. It's going to be curious to see how they use him. The other thing that I noticed is I think this defense is going to be a problem, specifically that defensive backfield. I was curious to look at where Jalen Ramsey is going to play. He played a lot in almost like that rover safety hybrid role, mm-hmm. that slot cornerback, and you had Joey Porter Jr. and Slay on the outside. Slay made a couple of great plays as well. So I am excited about the pass defense because you expect the pass rush to be good. You expect Hayward to be good, but the pass defense has been sus, as the kids would say. They don't say that anymore. But it was, I think, going to be massively different this year and in such a good way. And let me get to the point of the segment. The defense is dominating mm-hmm. training camp early on. So I'm talking every drill. They do a 7-shot drill where they do seven shots to get in, backs on backers, red zone goal. Nick Herbig, Joey Porter Jr. are making plays on Friday night at Friday Night Lights. Rodgers struggled and has been struggling at the goal line. So, Paul, let me start with you. Mm-hmm. Is it more impressive that the defense is this far ahead at this point in training camp, or more concerning for the offense?
Typically at this time of year, defenses are a little bit ahead of the offense because of all the terminology, all the new guys coming in. Defense is kind of defense. You got to know your spots. Communication is going to be big coming up quickly here as offenses sort of begin to catch up to and then sometimes surpass defenses. But the defense, as we've said for this show for months now, is going to be the Steelers' calling card. So it needs to be this dominant.
And
they want it to be. They want it to be. They spent a ton of money on that side of the ball. They put high draft picks on that side of the ball. They brought in high-priced players on that side of the ball. They made one of the existing players the highest-paid defensive player in the league who's on that side of the ball. So it should be good. It needs to be good. We saw this Pittsburgh team last year flounder at the end of the season because the defense went downhill. The offense, it needs to do just enough. I still see the Steelers playing a lot of 21-17 games. If they can hold teams under 17, 18, 19 points, they're going to win a lot of football games this year, and that's what they need to do.
And that's the way Tomlin wants to play. He wants to play that ground and pound, that defense wins championship mentality. I don't know if it's going to work.
I was talking to someone over the weekend, and it's just so boring to watch. I was like, it doesn't... At the end of the year, if you're 14-3, but it was boring, are you upset?
Right. Well, and I said this to Isaac on Wednesday. The Steelers went 10-8 with Russell Wilson at the helm, and they've, let's say, improved at the quarterback position. They've improved on defense. I mean, that's got to be the floor. So it may be boring to watch, but they're gonna win games. You know, they're gonna be in it. I don't know that they're playoff ready. Maybe if they go get Terry McLaurin like they're rumored to get, then maybe that puts them over the edge. I would be all for that.
That was my first question for you. Obviously, DK is going to be the number one receiver in that ball club.
Yeah.
Who's number two right now?
Jonnu, hands down.
Well, he's a tight end. I'm saying receiver, wide receiver.
It doesn't matter because Jonnu Smith is there. DK, I don't know if, in training camp, J.J. Watt said it a couple weeks ago. I think we talked about it last week. You never know what the plan is at training camp. If the plan is this, Rodgers is going to give the ball to DK Metcalf 100 times minimum this year. I mean, he was looking for DK on every play. So, obviously, yes, DK, Jonnu was all over the place. I do expect him to be the second receiver on the team. But in terms of wide receiver, Roman Wilson made a beautiful catch over Joey Porter Jr. I can see him kind of stepping up and being that wide receiver too, and then you keep Calvin Austin in the slot. That's what I think. But both Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson are more slot build, so you still need an outside guy. I wouldn't be surprised if they do bring Gabe Davis in. I don't know what Gabe Davis is waiting for. I don't know if he wants too much money or what. A move for Terry McLaurin would be great, but then you're going to have a lot of money locked in. From what I understand, he's going to training camps and he's healthy, but he isn't signing anywhere, so I'm not sure what it might be there too. But no, as it stands right now, I think Roman Wilson, Robert Woods, who I forgot was on this team until Thursday, made a couple good catches as well. So I have no idea. But the guy at quarterback, we do know who is going to start, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Unless you're following along on Steelers Twitter, everyone's pulling for Will Howard. Will Howard having a great camp. A lot of people saying he should be starting over Rodgers. God forbid he plays well this weekend. Will Howard, that is.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers has looked a little out of sync, throwing some incompletions, not necessarily connecting as much as you'd want on some of those red line drills, tossing things up to DK and now Jonnu. Isaac, at what point do we raise the alarm about Rodgers' early chemistry issues, or is this to be expected since he kind of got in late to the team?
Yeah, yesterday is when you should start raising the alarm, because I've been raising the alarm since he got to Pittsburgh. Look, Aaron Rodgers is what Aaron Rodgers is, right? The last two seasons, he'll rack up a bunch of touchdowns, but he's just not capable of putting together drives. Keep in mind, a lot of the late touchdowns he threw later in the year were deep balls to Garrett Wilson, and I don't quite think that DK Metcalf is a deep ball target. To Paul's point, I as good as Jonnu Smith can be in the wide receiver department, you need a wide receiver too, because you just simply cannot, in my opinion, you cannot in this day and age in the NFL dink and dunk your way to touchdowns. We saw it last year, especially in the red zone. Steelers' touchdown percentage was 48%. There were only 3 teams in the league last year that were worse than Pittsburgh scoring touchdowns in the red zone. You have to have somebody that you can trust to get the ball into the end zone with medium to deep routes when necessary. And my question is that who's going to be that wide receiver too? Is it Roman Wilson, who comes in and plays really his first year off of an injury from last season that kept him out? Does Calvin Austin become that guy who more consistently runs deep ball routes? Robert Woods is certainly not that guy with his stature. I just get concerned, and I talked about this a bit last week. I think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets for Pittsburgh, Nick, and I'm sure that you did in camp last week when you went.
Oh, yeah.
My worry is that if you become too much of a 4 to 5 yard offense and 7 to 10 yard slant route pass team, defenses are just going to converge on you. If you have no one to take the thing over the top, you're just going to have people load the box with 7, 8 guys. It's going to be a problem. So I'm still concerned, and I have been, that Aaron Rodgers' limitations, whether it's the deep ball or it's his lack of mobility, is going to hurt this offense. Because if you're one-dimensional, as they have been the last 3 or 4 years, you're not capable of scoring 24 to 28 points a game. I'm just concerned. I'm going to be
no.
You know, and I think it's the same issue that you had the last 2 years, is you just don't have people who can take the top off of things.
No, I agree. And, they've even been playing around with 3 tight end sets. I don't remember if that's 12, 13 personnel. Yeah. I mean, that could be, good. You're going to need that much protection to guard Aaron Rodgers because he's not as mobile as he used to be. But you're right. I don't think that they're going to be able to.
It's like high school wing T offense. And to Isaac's point, I don't think it's going to take very long for the Steelers to see those 8 and 9 man boxes. I think they're going to see that early in the season and say, get us out of it.
Right.
As opposed to, well, we'll see what you can do and then we'll load the box. No, let's see what you've got. I think that actually plays well for DK, who he's not the speedster. He's very fast, but he's also 6'4", 230. Right. The 50-50 ball to him is more like a 90-10 ball. So I don't hate that one-on-one. Yeah, he doesn't outrun the corner, but he's got 5 inches on the corner and 30 pounds.
So let's think about it this way. With that. Let's think about it this way. McLaren, reportedly on the trade block, says he wants out of Washington, Terry McLaurin. Does it make sense for the Steelers to go after a guy like that, knowing that they're probably going to have to package some draft picks? You traded a second for DK, so let's say that's the value for McLaurin, which I don't think it is. I would say, what you got for Pickens is probably a fair price for McLaurin. Do you leverage that future draft capital for a guy like Terry McLaurin, or are you better off just playing with what you have, running the 3 tight end personnel, and then just kind of going? The cap hit would be manageable. They have the cap room, even if because McLaurin's going to want a long-term deal. So not only do you have to trade that 2nd or 3rd round pick for him, but then you got to give him the long-term deal along with DK. Is it worth it for the Steelers to make that move?
Well, yeah, to your point, you have to extend him because you currently don't have the cap space with what his contract is. And
right.
I don't know if Omar Khan is going to want to have 2 receivers on the books for this much money. In theory, it would make sense, right? Because you would get 2 studs that you could have for at least 3 to 4 seasons. The problem, in my view, is that you've used up so much of your cap and defensive contracts, you don't have the money. Because, I mean, you're going to run into an issue 2-3 years down the road, guys. If you start signing these guys to long-term deals and whatever, you start deferring money, your window really becomes now, because 27, 28, 29, you're going to be so far over the cap, you're going to have to cut literally everyone on your team.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And that's kind of where my fear is of getting a guy like McLaurin. How say you, Paul?
I think McLaurin ends up being traded for a 3rd round pick. I think the Steelers can afford that. I just look at the draft capital in the near future. You better be solid that Will Howard is your future guy, because you're giving up a lot of draft capital for an older team. Okay, they are definitely older on that, especially the defensive side of the ball. You're going to have to replace those bodies in 27, 28, 29 anyway. I don't know if the Steelers are the right choice for McLaurin. I know they'd love him. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a Madden dream, that's for sure.
That's right.
Hey, before we take our break, I want to take a second and thank all of our sponsors: Quick Fill, Dauber Auto Supply, John's Wildwood Pizza, Circo Industrial Supply. Without them, we wouldn't be here for you. That takes us out of Pittsburgh, but we're going to head to Cleveland when we get back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill.
That's how you do it, Haley.
Hallie. It was Hallie. See?
Hallie?
Yeah.
Jeez.
We should cut her intro, her in, and use that as like a drop. Followed up by my
Inside jokes.
Falling apart in studio here this morning. Kind of like the Browns quarterback room. Ooh. Oh! See what I did there?
Is
Pro.
it really, though?
Yes, it's fall. Are you kidding me? Oh, my gosh.
This is what we expected.
Well, yes. I mean, I didn't say we didn't expect it, but I mean, it's absolutely happening how we predicted it.
Right. I'll give you that.
Let's head over to Cleveland, because if there's anything I love to do other than talk sports, it's talk crap on the Browns. And this quarterback carousel doesn't look as much like a competition in Cleveland as much as it is confusion, right? Just to catch you up. Maybe you're just starting to get into the NFL season. Sorry for you. But there's a four-man QB battle happening between Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel. So far, it has been a dud with no clear leader emerging and more reps than rhythm. So Pickett is back. You know, he had that hamstring injury. We thought that might hold him out a little longer than it did. He's battling. He's back, but limited. And now Shedeur Sanders is missing time due to some sort of arm soreness. Flacco is getting the most of the first-team reps. I mean, are the Browns setting themselves up for another year of QB instability, IP?
Well, I mean, what's different than previous years? I mean, at least, you know, it's funny because the old saying goes, right, is that if you have two quarterbacks or more, then you really have none. I think Cleveland is essentially at this point grasping at straws. But I will say this. I do think that this is a complete 180 from what their strategy was years back, right?
Sure.
They went all in. They got Deshaun Watson. They paid way too much for him, obviously, hindsight being 2020. But you have to give Andrew Berry credit where now, at worst, he's saying, you know what? Let's at least get as many guys as we can in here and see if one of them sticks. I still think Joe Flacco is going to be the starter week one. I don't think that that's probably changed, at least from Cleveland's perspective. He's the most veteran. He understands how the inner workings of the team works. And right, he led the Browns to the playoffs in the last few games of the season a couple of years back with Kevin Stefanski. So I think that's the safe pick. The big question to me is going to be, and I think the reason you're seeing these different reps and consistently different reps is who's going to be the backup. I don't really think the equation's changed. It's just more so the way that they're going about it is Kevin Stefanski, to my knowledge, really doesn't have any idea who the quarterback line is post Joe Flacco. But you have to give everyone the benefit of the doubt because you drafted Dylan Gabriel ahead of Shedeur. You're not going to cut Shedeur because that would just be publicly, you know, in terms of publicity, it'd be bad. Right. And so I think you almost have to do it this way. It really isn't surprising to me the way that they're distributing reps. It's more so the fact that they don't have, as of August 4th, a better idea of what the depth chart may look like, even if it's internal and not external.
Yeah, especially coming into the first preseason game this weekend. Paul, how say you?
So I think Pickett was leading early on. The hamstring injury took him down. Flacco struggled early, and then Pickett went down with the hamstring, and then Flacco kind of showed up.
Yeah.
The last two practices have been his best two. Shedeur obviously out the arm soreness on Saturday, so there were basically two quarterbacks handling all the reps, Flacco and Dylan Gabriel. So if you look at the way that they've been handling these two rookies, they clearly favor Gabriel. And I think a lot of that has to do with the off the field, the intangibles, the leadership qualities, the brain. Yeah. I think they really like all of those things that he brings to the table. The trouble with Gabriel has been he hasn't been good in practice. The accuracy has been really bad. We know he's small. It appears he's struggling to see guys beyond 5 to 7 yards from the line of scrimmage. Hasn't looked good there. Flacco has looked, even keel. I think at this point, especially because of the hamstring to Pickett, I think Flacco's your start at the beginning of the season, and I think we're going to see more and more of that as we go down the line. What'll be interesting is they're going to travel to Carolina this week, and they're going to have a joint practice with the Panthers, I believe, Wednesday, and then they play them Friday night. So does Flacco play Friday night? I don't know. Do they give him a series or do they not play him at all? Is Kenny Pickett ready by Friday night? I don't know if they want to push him into a game that means absolutely nothing. Dylan Gabriel, I would expect, gets the start. I wonder how much run he gets, I wonder how much run Shedeur Sanders gets. The question I heard posed this morning, which I thought was the best one I heard all weekend, was who's going to be the Browns starting quarterback, week 1 and week 18? And I think it's two different answers. I think it's Flacco week 1, but by week 18, I'm going to stick by my prediction a couple of weeks ago. I think it's Sanders by the end of the year. If you look at the practices, he's clearly number 4 on the depth chart right now.
Yeah.
But that's by design.
Well,
and
by
every
draft
day,
capital, yeah.
if you take all the quarterbacks and go, who had the best throw of the day?
Yeah.
It's Sanders.
Yeah.
Day after day after day. And he's playing with the 3s and 4s against the 2s and 3s. And every day is just, oh, man, absolutely. That was a freak. How did he see that? Fit it in that window.
Right.
So,
but that's like saying Will Howard is battling or outplaying Aaron Rodgers, but he's playing the 3rd and 4th stringers. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And I think that Shedeur does. I agree. It does end up being the starting quarterback at some point in this season. But that's not because he's the better quarterback. It's because he's the best of the worst. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have 4 good options coming out of Cleveland, so you're going to try and see what you get out of Shedeur.
Well,
in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Well, I think two things. Number one, to Paul's point, I do think that the joint practice will tell you more than the preseason game, and we've seen that more often with NFL teams now. Is that joint practices are more hard go than preseason games are. And so I think whatever comes out of that before the Carolina game, I think is more so informational. The other thing I would say too is I don't think it really matters who the best quarterback is. I think it's a matter of who the best is in Kevin Stefanski's system.
Sure.
This is a guy that got rid of Baker Mayfield, and we've seen what he's doing now in Tampa and had Joe Flacco work.
Right.
So it's not necessarily, Deshaun Watson was a flop. Kevin Stefanski runs a very specific offense, and I think to Paul's point, Shedeur is more of that quarterback that can morph into that sort of offense. Joe Flacco did it so well because he can get the ball out quick. These are, to me, some complex, convoluted routes that these wide receiver run. So you have to have good vision down the field. You also have to be smart with your decision making. And so I think the vision part is where Dylan Gabriel is struggling, because you have to know where guys are going to be and then make last second adjustments. Joe Flacco can do that because he's a veteran quarterback. Shedeur Sanders can do that because that's all he did at Colorado, because keep in mind, he didn't have the offensive line to let him stay in the pocket for more than 2 or 3 seconds. And I think Kenny Pickett doesn't fit into the system because he is more of a drop back pocket quarterback as he was at Pitt. So I think naturally, because of the way the offense is run, you're seeing Flacco, and to what Paul is saying, Sanders probably going to climb up the depth chart because it just works with the offense. Yeah. I've never been of the belief that Cleveland has to have a stud quarterback. Kevin Stefanski's too good of a coach. What they have to have is some guy that fits and is okay with fitting and morphing and adjusting to Stefanski's system.
But that was easier when you had a guy like Nick Chubb too. I mean, Quinshon Judkins hasn't even been in camp yet this year.
But I don't think the run game, really quickly, Nick, I don't think the run game is as big as a factor as you think. I mean, I covered the Browns here and there for a couple of years, the last 2 years. The number of times that they would pound the ground and run the football in the first quarter and then just not give Chubb the ball at the end of the game. He had, to me, if you distributed carries between first half, second half, he had the most carries in the league on average in the first half and probably the least out of starting running backs in the second half. So I don't think the run game is as big as a factor as we think.
I don't know. Hey, sound off in the comments. Just who's the Browns quarterback starter by week 18? Throw it up on the comments if you're watching along. IP, you talked about the coaching staff, and I kind of prepped this question for you, right? Jimmy Haslam comes out and says, hey, there is no panic despite a 3-14 season and a failed Watson trade. He insists the team is still on the right track, but he acknowledges that the rookie QBs must play well this year. Now, the front office continuity, they believe in Stefanski and Barry for now. So in your mind, how much leash should Stefanski and Barry have left after last season?
I think Stefanski should have as long of a leash as he needs. He still hasn't had a steadfast quarterback in his time with the Browns. I mean, this has been a rotating carousel, whether by his or somebody else's choice. Andrew Barry is a question mark for me because I really don't like the Mason Graham pick in the first round. This was the first time in 4 years that you'd had a first-round pick with the Deshaun Watson first-rounders then officially gone. You had a first this year that you used. I would have used it on an offensive guy, especially if you had a rotating array of quarterbacks who you knew needed successful weapons around them, whether it was a guy on the offensive line or whether it was a receiver. I'm not a huge fan of the Graham pick with the Garrett re-signing.
Sure.
So I think the trade deadline will be most interesting because if Cleveland's in a contending position, even if they're about 500, I could see Barry trying to make a move to save his job. Stefanski, though, to me, is a top 5 to 10 coach in football. I don't think it's necessarily his system that's flawed. I think it's more so the quarterback. And I think he had to change his system because the quarterback position has been of issue to them in the last few seasons. So I think Stefanski's got a longer leash, but I mean, Jimmy Haslam's an impulsive owner. It wouldn't shock me if they get to week 9, they're sitting at 2-6, and he pulls the trigger on a new coach. I'm not sure it's a great idea to do that, though.
You didn't fall into my trap. I'm proud of you. Last year it was a lot of talk about Stefanski being fired. I was trying to set you back up for that, and you outsmarted me as usual.
I think Stefanski's safer than Tomlin.
That's fair. I think
wow,
that's
there's
fair.
a statement.
I think that's fair. Paul, in 30 seconds, what's a successful 2025 look like in Cleveland?
Successful 2025, I think you have to be near the 500 mark, and I think you need to know whether or not or what you have in the quarterback room, good or bad. I think you need to go into the next year knowing, hey, none of these guys are going to work, or we've got a guy and we can address other needs.
I don't know. I just don't know what are you excited about in Cleveland right now?
Front 7 defensively. They're going to be really good.
Except Mason Graham, if you're right.
Mason Graham's going to be good. I know he doesn't like to pick, but go back to the draft. Who are the offensive players at 2, 3, 4, and 5 that you'd take?
Steelers and Browns zigging while everybody else is zagging. Not that I like to put Cleveland and Pittsburgh in the same bucket. Anyway, all right. When we get back, we're talking Bills. We got to figure out what the heck's going on in there.
Does Tetaroa McMillan make the Browns offense better? I don't think so.
You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. We're off the air. We debate about the effectiveness of Corey Dillon versus A.J. Dillon. Everybody's like, who? What? Anyway. You know who else is saying who? What?
Who's that?
Anybody wondering what's going on in Bills camp? Because it has been quiet up there in, which we found out today, Rochester, New York. There is not much coming out. I mean, the biggest news, and we're going to talk about it, the biggest news coming out of Bills camp is the James Cook situation, the hold-in, right?
That and injuries. That's it.
But do you think that is a good thing for Buffalo right now? To just be having a dull training camp. Their lead writer on The Athletic had that out as a title of an article this morning. They're having a dull training camp, and I think that's a great way to put it because You don't have many people talking about it. Tim Graham, by the way, from The Athletic, the name escaped me there, said Buffalo's dull training camp is exactly what the Bills want. And I think I'm on board with that because usually they are the ones that are, this is hype season for the Bills, and we've done that several years in a row now, and they've made the playoffs. They're a great team. But I don't think you want that pressure because I think there is a lot of pressure on Buffalo to win the Super Bowl this year, not just make the playoffs, win the Super Bowl. So the more that you can go into the season not on everybody's radar in terms of a dull training camp, I think that's exactly where they want to be right now.
Dull means no controversy.
Right.
And that's great. There is a little bit of controversy, of course. The running back situation, a bit precarious. Is James Cook going to sit in? Is he going to sit out? How's that contract going to look? Defensively, I think Maxwell Hairston is quite a loss. We're looking at Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel on the offense. Joshua Palmer's also had a little bit of an injury bug. He's going to be fine. Caden Prather, another wide receiver that has battled the injury bug.
Yep.
Shaq Thompson and Dorian Williams, a couple of linebackers. Situational players, but NFL rosters, it's 53 on the active roster, 45 on game day, and if you're missing 5 to 10 guys, that's almost a quarter of your roster, game day roster. So it'll be a situation to certainly pay attention to as the Bills progress toward the season. But yeah, dull is good. I agree with you 1,000% on. This isn't the Bills we've seen the last 2 years where this is their year. Josh Allen is the MVP, and they should be Super Bowl favorites, and Kansas City who. And I think you're right. I think that sort of builds in the back of your mind. The expectation is, can we meet that expectation? And things are kind of quiet around there. I like what they did. We're not going to talk about the MVP. Let's talk about our red helmets.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good, something to get the fans excited about that doesn't necessarily weigh on the players' minds. I like that.
No, I do too. And I think, maybe it's a little bit of story fatigue, why nobody's really talking about them. So, I think that's probably good for what you don't want all eyes at training camp right now. But you talked about the wide receiver woes, and I am a little nervous about that because Shakir was down. Curtis Samuel's been already banged up a little bit, so this opens the door, which for guys that I forgot about, like KJ Hamler, former Penn State standout, would love to see him make a return. Had a couple bad injuries in Denver. Chase Claypool, still on the Bills roster as well.
Yikes.
So there is a lot of wide receiver depth. Keon Coleman had a rough start to camp, seems to be battling back a little bit as well. This is a team, we talked about Terry McLaurin going to the Steelers in the B block. This team makes more sense to me to go out and get a guy like Terry McLaurin. If you could go out and get a Terry McLaurin to pair up alongside Keon Coleman and then have a Shakir, a Palmer, insert slot receiver here, that massively upgrades that side of the ball. Because without him, is wide receiver depth a concern heading into the season for you?
Absolutely. If you can go get a guy who's A1A, in that room, that would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
That's a team poised for a run right now. You get a player who can help you right now. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Who knows what happens with McLaurin. This stuff always happens in training camp.
Yeah, I'm not saying he leaves.
Re-signed,
I would say he doesn't personally, but
yeah,
crazy stuff has happened.
Well, and I think, Dalton Kincaid is another one who's been on the climb in training camp I've read.
Everybody forgets about Dawson Knox, who's a great receiving tight end. So.
We talked about how Jonnu could be that kind of joker player for Pittsburgh. Kincaid can be that for Buffalo. He can block, but he's a great receiver. Throw him in the slot, have him be that joker player inside of Shakir and Coleman, and I think that offense is humming. Oh, and you got Josh Allen at your quarterback too. So
you got a great distributor.
I think you're okay there. Let's talk about James Cook because I think this is sneaky important. This contract business. He sat out practice, and he's using the word, quote, business as his only explanation about why he's missing practice. An article came out just a little bit ago on NFL.com by Kevin Patra, who talks about Bills GM Brandon Beane wasn't fully aware of James Cook's holding plan. So he's not really, maybe being I don't want to say being a team player because it is a business. He needs to make his money. He wants about $15 million a year, and the team has really said little about what they want to do and what his plans are. He had participated fully in camp until now he's sitting out. Should the Bills pay James Cook, or is really this a next man up backfield because Josh Allen is really your running back one?
Exactly what you just said. James Cook is not so special to me.
Yeah.
As a player, or even to this Bills offense, that it's like, oh, you have to give him Derrick Henry money.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Ray Davis is a
Davis a
nice
lot.
running back.
Yep.
He's doing field goal duties right now too. I don't know if you saw that because the kicker's hurt. He kicked a 57-yarder in high school, so now he's doing NFL kicks. Just a fun little, did you know? But you hit the nail on the head. Josh Allen is the number one runner in that offense, on that team. James Cook, look, man, if you can get 15 M's, take it. I also want 15 M's. I'm not going to get it either, brother. So I don't know. I'm just showing up to work.
Well, if Paul doesn't show up next week,
right?
he's
I'm the starting running back for the Bills,
holding in for a new contract here. But yeah, you got Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Darrington Evans is there. I liked him in Tennessee. Frank Gore Jr. I mean, there's somebody who's got some name value there for the running back room as well.
That's it.
So
that's name value. That's all.
Let's do this for Buffalo. Let me just get a confidence level meter for you here. I'm going to go down through some different situations and give me a rating from 1 to 10, 10 being the most confidence that you have in these different areas, okay? Buffalo
10 being
Bills.
Good.
Yeah, 10 being the best.
Okay.
How much confidence do you have in the Bills' offensive line? Right now, they've had some shakeup. You have guys like Deion Dawkins still on the left side. Connor
Brown hasn't
McGovern's in the
practiced.
center. Spencer Brown is having. So, what's your confidence level in the Browns' offensive line this year?
7 to 8.
Okay.
Should Spencer Brown come back and be healthy, they've got a pretty solid front five.
Again, with a mobile guy like Allen, is it
Right.
really important for them to be?
Listen, I think a lot of the reason Allen has been able to do what he's been able to do the last couple of years is because of the guys up front.
Yeah.
So I do not discount them at all. I think they're a very, very good front five.
Confidence meter, wide receiver core without Shakir.
Ooh, without Shakir, 2 or 3.
2 or 3. That's probably higher than I would have given them. Absolutely. It's as we talked about.
I mean, you got a first-round pick receiver in there. Josh Palmer's a good player. I like KJ Hamler, nice slot guy, very shifty. Hasn't had a whole lot of NFL success, but I like him as an athlete.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shakir is the straw that stirs the drink. I think he's the best receiver they have, even though the size is what he is. He's not a boundary player.
Yeah.
But he gets open, and Josh Allen likes him.
James Cook's contract situation resolving peacefully. How confident are you that it gets done?
8 or 9. I think it'll get done. I think they're going to find a compromise because they want a starting running back, but he wants to get paid this year.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think the way that the NFL Players Association in the last CBA, the players don't have the same leverage they did like when Lev Bell was holding out for a year.
Right.
They get fined for every game, fined for every practice. So
and the cap is fake, and there's always these performance bonuses, and you can move money to 10 years from now, and they'll make it work.
Well,
they'll
that's
be fine.
been the kicker
They'll
with
make
these
them happy.
hold-ins too. Is it's like, okay, you got fined, let's say $1 million. I don't know what the number is, $1 million for all your hold-in stuff. Well, then they just give you an extra $1 million on your signing bonus, and they give it all back to you anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
I'm not worried.
Confidence meter 1 to 10. The defense replicating last year's form.
Last year they were okay. They were above average. Now they were missing Matt Milano for a lot of that, so I think they could be. That's a good one. I would say confidence-wise, I'd put them at a 7. I know they're going to be good. I don't know if they're going to be great, but they've got a lot of good players. The secondary still gives me cause for pause, but there's a lot of pieces back there that should they communicate and mesh well, they should be just fine.
Yeah, based off of end of
McDermott
last
turns
season,
nobodies into players, so I think they'll be fine.
Based on the end of last season, they were about middle of the pack, depending on who you're looking at, anywhere from 15 to 17.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Confidence rating 1 to 10. Josh Allen staying healthy and being back-to-back MVP.
I'll say 9. I'm not confident he's the back-to-back MVP because maybe it should have been Lamar Jackson last year, but I'm not worried about him getting hurt. He's a moose. He's built like a moose.
Yeah.
He plays all the games anyway. He's going to be good. He's going to be there. He should be in MVP discussion. I don't know if he actually wins it.
Is it Super Bowl or bust for the Bills this year?
I think it has to be.
I think it is too, and that's terrifying because I don't know that they're built for it yet. I mean, Josh Allen is a phenomenal quarterback, but how much can you really put on his shoulders?
I don't know if they have the horsepower outside of Josh Allen. They don't have any great runners. They don't have any great receivers. They have 2 good but not great tight ends, and the defense is slightly above average. If they get there, it's going to be on the back of 17.
You saw what Philly had to do to KC to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't see that in the Bills' defense. It's very kind of coverage oriented. It's not necessarily, they don't have the pass rushers that are there. I know they went and got Joey Bosa. He's already been injured. Rousseau's going to have a great year. Like, it's just they don't have
Bosa is Yiddish for injury prone.
They just don't have. So I feel nervous for Buffalo because I do feel like it's Super Bowl or bust, right? We talked about the hope for Cleveland is that they wrap things up and that they find out who their quarterback is. You got to win the Super Bowl if you're Buffalo, and that's a lot of pressure.
I think you at least have to get there.
I don't know. They're the one of our Rust Belt teams. They're the ones that I'm worried about the most. They have the most pressure going into this season, and we'll see as preseason games start this weekend.
When we're here in this studio next week, we will have real football to discuss.
I love it. I won't be here, but all right, we got to get it. We're out of here for the day. Signing off for Paul Adamzak, Rich Smith, Isaac Petcash. That's it. We're done. Have fun.